Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I am, as ever and always, your host, the Lore Runner. What's up, guys? We had a bit of news this week, which we'll be covering, such as this. I really hate this new Twitch loadout. I just gotta say. I wonder if there's an option to turn it off. Thank you very much, Ice Tray, for the sub. I will, as always, put that towards Ghost Trick, looks like. There's no way to turn up. Well, that's neat. Oh my god. Guys, really? Really? I didn't stream one day. I worked the whole day. I was actually being made fun of. So I was telling Gary, I was like, yeah, I took the day off. I even hesitated there for a second to kind of emphasize it. And his response is, what's a day off? I was like, look, just because it's been in the year range since I've actually taken a day off. And so they made fun of me for a bit. And then, I told them what I've been working on that whole day, and they're like, wait, you've been working the whole day? Well, yeah. And it's not a day off, is it? And I'm just like, look, I wasn't streaming. Thank you very much, Shikor. Very much obliged as always, sir. Thank you. I've put that towards Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. I don't have much show news. I'm still hammering out a few things. But I do want to talk about two things. So first of all, we do have a voot right now. This is for the gender of our Sith Warrior, which I will go ahead and link the voot in chat. It's okay, I got a lot of work done. So that is for what gender. The gender will also determine our species as well as our color scheme. But mostly, the most important thing it will change will be our voice actor and or actress. So, for those of you who haven't vooted, please feel free to voot. If you haven't, then I'm going to send him after you, and I don't think you're going to like that. I'd also want to share one other thing. So I'm in talks with a couple of people about how to implement this, but after some thought and some prep work, I am pretty sure we can, in fact, because I'm making a different species depending on the gender. Depending on, shoot, now I've lost my train of thought. I'm going to do something with the website. Let's just summarize this a little bit. No, Zach Taft. So, right now, if you pull up the website, you'll notice there's the stream list, there's the priority list, and then if you go below that, there's the long streams priority list. After some thought, I think we're going to go ahead and chop this into 3. Short, medium, long. And short is going to be obvious, really short games, stuff that we can smash out in 2 days at the most. Mega Man 7, right? Like, you look at the list of how long any given run has been, and you'll notice towards the bottom here, there are a lot of runs that we smashed out in a day. Ori and the Blind Forest, Phantasy Star, Battlestar Galactica, Life is Strange, Vermintide 2, Binary Domain, Jak and Daxter. I'm going to stop. But there are a lot of them down there. Here's a relink to the poll. So, short. Medium is exactly what it sounds like. That's pretty much the norm. This is the town theme from Ocarina of Time for Lon Lon Ranch specifically. Then, of course, the long stuff, which is fairly self-explanatory. I don't really feel the need to explain that. The only question I have, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is I'm debating layout. So for those of you who haven't looked at our website, first of all, shame on you. But second of all, the general format is we've got the centerpiece, which is just for most recent VODs, and that is to say, YouTube stuff, as well as the stream, which is just right there. On the right side, we have mostly just side stuff, like there's a bunch of links to like the review page or the Lorium's page. We've got all of the upcoming ruminations are on a list over there. It's on the list. Chill, Zach Taft, chill. It's okay, man. It's okay. And we also have the Forbidden list on the right side. And Patreon way down at the bottom, because nobody cares about Patreon. On the left side, we have mostly stream-related stuff. The actual funded list, which is quite large at the moment. And then the Legend, as well as the donation button, which was shoved up by request, actually, along with normal and long. So I'm debating where to put each of these three pieces, basically. Short, medium, and long. Like, Days Gone is a long game, for example, so I'm not sure where exactly to put it. Now, I will admit, it is my inclination to say thank you to Wraith. Thank you very, very much, Wraith. Appreciate, as always. It's my inclination to put long in the least priority area. Which I know sounds strange, but the point is, anybody who is interested in any of the long games is probably interested at the beginning. They're the kind of person who is actually going to either scroll down or search for it or whatever. So long is going to be at the bottom pretty much regardless. Medium and short, not so sure about that. Outer Worlds on Switch is garbage and is still being patched to the point of accessibility, so we're waiting on the PC release, which should be in about 2 months actually at this point. That's conjecture, by the way. To my knowledge, we still don't actually have a release date outside of whatchfig. So, but that the last I read, which is at this point a few months ago, was August. So we will see. Although, of course, August will be busy anyways. But either way, thank you very much, Hedy Ori, for the sub. Very much appreciate and oblige, except you didn't tell me where you want to put it. So I'm not as appreciative obliged, but I'm still thankful. Thank you very much. What I'm thinking about doing is I might go ahead and put the long list and the locked-in list on the right side. Because right now the left column goes down way down, whereas the right column just kind of stops after a certain point. What do you guys think? I'm looking for feedback, basically. Have I tried Outer Worlds? No. It isn't out yet, as far as I'm concerned. It isn't out in an acceptable format. Because I did actually look into the Switch release, because of course I freaking did. And what I saw was not good. That is badly optimized. Very badly optimized. Anyways. I was also thinking about putting the locked-in list either on the right side or just not on the main page entirely. I know what the locked-in is. I actually have a completely separate tab in my spreadsheet for keeping track of the locked-in. So I've been thinking about just removing it from the website entirely. The only reason I'm hesitant to do that is because then people, won't be able to see what's locked in. Like, someone might come on right now and say, well, where's, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1? And I'm like, well, it's locked in, I can't say go to the website if the info's not on the website, right? So I'm not sure what to do about that one. It's also worth noting there's actually 2 categories of locked in at this point, although I don't really see the need to differentiate them. Because there's locked in and waiting, and then there's locked in and not out yet. So, either way, I think my knee-jerk reaction would be to put long and locked in on the right. And then leave short and normal on the left. Probably short at the top. Making sure that anyone who is just an idle viewer or someone who... Because I know a lot of people will donate and they're like, oh, I don't know what to put it towards. They'll pull up the website and they'll scroll down and then they'll put it to the first thing that catches their eye, which is fine, by the way, no judgment. But if I put short on the top, that will prioritize those for runs that they might find interesting. That's not a bad idea, Nymph. Replacing it with... make it more clear in the terminology there. Good morning, Wandering Bard. Either way, we will... That's going to be a thing going forwards. I'm still waiting on some scripting to be done to make that a little bit less horrific to keep track of. Because, believe it or not, updating 3 separate spreadsheets is a bit weird. Time frame for medium, 15 to 30. Roughly. All of this is, of course, very vague and very, rough. in terms of estimation, but anything below 15 hours is short. 15 to 30 hours is medium. Above 30 hours is long. Roughly. Obviously, in some cases, I don't even know what something will be because it's not out yet or I don't have much information. In that case, it will default to normal, which actually several have already done if you're paying attention. Neither, Zacteft. How do I determine the length of the stream? Very rough estimation. Hang on, there you go. Oh, I use type 1. Definitely, nevermore. Why would you put medium at the top, Hazardous? Oh, that reminds me, Hazardous. Do you either remember the Darth name you gave us, or where it was, or where we were in KOTOR 2 when you mentioned it? Because I couldn't find it in the VOD, and I'm not 100% sure where it was. Yeah, I thought about that Imperial Starter shirt. Here's the problem. That all putting if I put anything off the main page, it massively decreases the viability of people actually seeing it. This is not presumption, this is total fact. I actually have figures to back this up. So if I was to, for example, make a button over there that says, I don't know, Vault, for example, people will, statistically speaking, not click that. There's also several cases. So, for example, if I made a thing to quick, normal, and long, people would be... The only people who would click that would be people who, are already substantially invested, which is roughly 20% of the overall viewership that actually donates. So, long story short, no. It was the Ravager Dungeon. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you, Wondering Bard, very, very much for the sub. Very much obliged and appreciate. Thank you. If you know where you want to put that, let me know. That's the wrong thing. There we go. No, I'll look it up, Hazardous. It's on the Ravager, and I know exactly where that is in the VOD, so I'll just pull that up later. I don't need it until tomorrow. How will it affect scheduling? So, the reason that we're doing this... I'm sorry, that's a good question. It's a good question. I'm sorry, I thought I already addressed this. My bad. Right now... yeah, exactly, Blue Up Alex. Right now, what we have is a system in which Parasite Eve has been donated for by Wondering Bard. You got it. We have a system in which you have to hit a certain amount of priority to cap off a run, right? It's not money, it's not people, it's both. Priority. There's a whole formula. Now, the catch is I can set at will whatever that value is. I can say you need 1,000 priority, or 3 priority, or 5 million priority. I could just change that at will. The catch is the way that our sorting algorithm works is I can't do it per target. Let me rewind a second here. One of the first ideas I had was to give a very rough estimate on relative length of a run, and then plug that into a formula to make sure that each individual run has its own priority value. Basically making it so that you need X priority per time, right? The problem is that makes it not sortable. Because the way that the sort function works, the sort function only works if all of them are being sorted out of the same value. So they all need to be out of 1,000 or out of 500 or out of 5 million or whatever, right? So we need to standardize, hence chopping it into 3. So having a lower priority value for short, normal priority value for normal, and a much larger priority value for large. That way all 3 lists are still sortable, and it's still relatively. Yes and no, Sinister Wing. How long to beat is notoriously and horrifically inaccurate when it comes to the duration of game length. However, I can use that along with YouTube, Let's Plays or other VODs in order to roughly estimate, generally within a 20-hour range, exactly how long a game is. Correct, Zacteft. Anything that's locked in is locked in. The only reason it's not on the schedule yet is because it's either not out yet or we're waiting on something. Like with the Master Chief Collection. So, this is why we're going to be chopping this into 3. Good question, Mike Romano. In other words, it will be easier to fund a short run than a medium, and easier to fund a medium than a long. This is something... I talked about this last week, I think. The whole idea is, as much as I'm fine with standardizing runs, The truth is I need to schedule around time, which is probably the most valuable resource I have right now. So, that's the idea. I've heard some feedback, good feedback. If anybody else has anything else to share about that, including on the VOD, because obviously this will go up on YouTube, please feel free to share. Otherwise, let's go ahead and move forward to random news. Yeah, let's switch songs. It's actually funny, Stitchwing. In my experience, I can literally chop any how long to beat run about in half, and that's a little bit more accurate. Well, if you think of it, let me know, Mike Romano. For now, let's go ahead and move on to random news. Let's start with the bad. Pokemon Unite is coming out. It's being developed by a subsidiary of Tencent and pushed by Tencent. It is a Pokemon MOBA. You know, I'd like to be tolerant and understanding, but all I can see when I look at that is just a sea of red alert, you know, just alarms everywhere, just like... MOBA. I forget what it stands for, but League of Legends. It's Pokemon League of Legends. You play as Pokemon, you rush out, and it will probably make bank. Moving on. Is that even legal? Yeah, of course it is. You kidding me? You know what's funny is I've liked the idea of what you could do with a MOBA for some time, but then they took it in a completely different direction. And then I suddenly stopped liking them. I can list 3 MOBAs I've enjoyed over the years. Actually enjoyed. Mercs and Techs. It's on the original StarCraft. Defense of the Ancients. The original, Warcraft 3. And, Heroes of the Storm, which I only enjoyed because, you know, they did some really creative stuff with their maps, and then it got nuked. That's it. No judgment to anybody who likes MOBAs. That's yours. You know, you go and enjoy you. But I look at this and my first reaction is, oh my god, really? Let's shift to more positive news, which is most of the rest. Actually, I'm going to rearrange my order here because I also want to talk about some things that most of you guys probably don't care about, but screw you, it's my job. Microsoft Flight Simulator released some gameplay footage last week, including some comparison videos, and it looks really, really good. Now, obviously, that's not really my thing. Like, I'm not really into, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator. But if you are, this one looks damned fine. They are going into ludicrous amounts of detail, and it looks very, very pretty. And normally I'm not a graphics guy, but when you're playing a game that's all about 2 things, the simulation of flying and flying, right? I mean, it needs to look pretty. It needs to look very, very nice as you're flying around, looking at the ground, right? And, yikes. God, I hate the current topic. One of these days, I'm just going to get rid of the current topic thing. It's such a pain. I have no idea, Mike Kamano. I haven't looked into that one. But yeah, no, it's actually looking legit. So for anybody curious, I could actually kind of put a stamp of it. It looks awesome. They showed off several of the airports, which have a ton of detail. Apparently, it is global. Obviously shrunk, but... Whew. It's also going to be an absolutely gargantuan game in terms of how much hard drive space it takes up, because of course it is tons and tons of textures across an absolutely gargantuan map. So... Oh yeah, that's right. It's also apparently... Oh wait, is this the one? I might be misremembering. Never mind, I'm not going to say that because I don't actually remember. I remember reading something about you can actually get a legitimate license, but I forget if that was a racing game or the flight games. I'm just going to move on there. Hitman 3, which I'm already sold on, by the way, because it's Hitman 3, is also looking pretty darn good. In fact, it's going to let you import stuff from Hitman 2. Now, I wasn't able to find a lot of specific details about this. 120 gigs. I wasn't able to find a lot of specific details about this, but it does look like you can import some of the stages from Hitman 2 in a similar manner to how you could play Hitman 1 stages in Hitman 2. So, A, good idea. B, even more inclined to pick up Hitman 3. Awesome. I'm hyped. I'm hyped for Hitman 3. That's, I loved Hitman 2. It was a sushi game, in addition to just being absolutely phenomenal. Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me, Shikor. I'm going to look up something really quick, just so I don't forget. I've got 1,000 things on my mind, and I got 4 other streams to do today. Unless I try 3 other streams to do today. Is this it? There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now that that's up, I'll remember that for later. Anyway, several people have asked about VR for Microsoft Sim. I have no idea. I didn't see any information about it. So, Xbox, this is actually a funny one. I mentioned last week... Yeah, asterisk Darth Tyrant. I have heard Lore Reloaded told me several times before that, yeah, no, we're totally doing it tonight, and then nothing happened, so... Dependent upon him... We should be playing it tonight. The Xbox. So I mentioned last week that we actually already had the Microsoft conference for EA, or excuse me, for E3 this week. We actually haven't yet. Apparently that was just their first showing of several. So they're going to continue having some showings, plural, in the future. One of which is coming out in July, in just a few weeks here. And they're going to be showcasing games, and they might even showcase actual frickin' gameplay. I don't mean to be negative, but I just wanted to call attention to my own mistake, that we are still going to have Microsoft conferences in the future. We'll see what they do with that. So now's a good time to mention Crash 4. So Crash Bandicoot 4 has been announced and is coming out. And looks pretty good, actually. Couple things caught my eye about it. First of all, they actually showed off several levels and boss fights, which leads me to my next statement. It looks like the level design is a little bit more varied than the stuff I was seeing in 1 through 3, and the boss designs look substantially more varied than what I saw in 1 through 3. So that's good. You know, woo. It also apparently is completely ejecting the rest of continuity, just sticking to 1 through 3. They even called that out at the end of the trailer. Not sure what I think of that, but it does amuse me at least a little bit. At the very least, if they're sticking to their guns, they should stick to their guns. But like I said, I'm not sure what I think of that, and I'm not exactly invested in the series, so I'm not really the person to ask about that. It's coming out, so I have to admit, Crash 4 is a game that I wouldn't mind being added to the list, but I'm okay with waiting until it comes out on something else. You know, gets a PC or Switch port or whatever. Speaking of new games that were mentioned, Rogue Legacy 2 actually was announced back in April, but it has actually entered early access already, which is astonishing. So for those of you who don't remember, Rogue Legacy is actually one of my personal favorite roguelikes, which is saying something because I don't actually like roguelikes all that much. But this one was fun. It was, you know, you played a person, it was kind of a Metroid-y sort of a... It's not quite Metroid, that's a wrong way to put it. It was a platformer, a combat puzzle platformer, which was brutally hard. And if you died, then you played your descendant. which you had before you entered the castle, obviously. And each time you would change your setups and blah, blah, blah. It was good. Let's just summarize. It's a good game. I would love to do a review of it someday and hopefully actually beat it, because I never have. But Rogue Legacy 2 is looking very legit. It's also... So I wanted to mention this. I could turn this into a whole topic here. Because early access is its own little problem, right? There's so many issues with early access games, but I actually still stand by, that's the wrong way to say that, I still am in support of the idea of early access games, because I think when they are used properly, it's a good tool. You help fund the game early, in hopes of getting a copy of said game, and also to get feedback and to be a part of the development process. In my opinion, that is the correct way to do early access. Obviously, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of thousands of games that do not do that, which is the problem. I bring this up... Yeah, Black Mesa is a great example of that. I bring this up... Oh yeah, Subnautica. That's another good example. I bring this up because, near as I can tell, Rogue Legacy 2 is doing exactly that. It is doing it properly. And they are very serious about taking feedback and trying to get people involved in the development process and yada, yada, yada. So cool. I'm excited. Woo. Speaking of games that I am legitimately hyped for, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2 was announced and is also coming out in 2 weeks. So, Curse of the Moon 2 is... let me rewind. Curse of the Moon was one of those breakout games that I absolutely adored. In fact, I don't think I gave the game a negative. It didn't have that many positives. I think I had like +8 to gameplay or something. But still, I don't think I gave any negatives to that game. It was poetry in terms of game design. It's hard to even explain how good it was. No, it's just coming out. It was actually made as a Kickstarter goal for Bloodstained proper. So Curse of the Moon 2, I'm already excited about and interested in because it's Curse of the Moon 2. But I have looked at the stuff they've released about it, and it looks like they're continuing the same ideas, but with different stuff. So I can't even properly explain how good of a game Curse of the Moon is without sitting down and just going down the list. They did a lot of things very right when it comes to game design. One of the things... Oh god, I 100%ed that game twice, Crazy Norse. Once on the PC and once on the Switch. Like, I bought a second copy of it and went through and 100%ed it just because I loved it that much. Anyways, Curse of the Moon 2 looks like it's varying it up, so you're still going to have Zangetsu, obviously. But then we're going to have other people for the other modes, which you can still switch between with R and L at will, in mid-jump, if you choose to. And each of them have substantially different abilities than the people did in Curse of the Moon 1, which is good. It also means they can vary up the level design substantially. Like, there's this giant mecha automaton thing you can play as, and there's, like, this caster guy, and so forth and so on. It looks awesome. The boss fights look awesome. The level design looks awesome. I am incredibly hyped. It's the game I am most excited for this year. Make of that what you will. That's a good time to segue into Cyberpunk. Alright, so Cyberpunk had their thing. Now, you'll notice I actually am not talking about Cyberpunk proper yet. In fact, all I'm talking about is the fact that Cyberpunk is getting an anime. Now, you guys know I don't like anime. It's not my thing. But I have to say, this is probably a really smart move on their part. Hear me out for a second. So, Witcher 3. Good game, right? I mean, we're going to disagree on opinion, obviously, but I think, at the very least, we can say it's a good game. So, Witcher 3 was a game, and it's nice and awesome and fun. And then, last year, The Witcher Netflix show came out, which, by several accounts, is a good show. I haven't seen it, so I can't speak personally to that. And then Witcher 3 sales went up. Huh. You see where I'm going with this. So the idea that they are kind of getting ahead of this, you know, they're getting ahead of the trend, Makes a lot of sense, because it's not that dumb to look at that and think, you know, we're probably going to, at the very least, expand the possible audience that we're going to grab in for Cyberpunk by having a Cyberpunk show, which may or may not actually include any relevant story and elements. But the relevant part is, of course, it's going to increase interest in Cyberpunk the game. Now you're probably thinking, well, everyone in the world likes Cyberpunk the game. No, 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 no. Gamers like Cyberpunk the game. This is kind of the catch. I know we tend to think about this as sort of a duh, but one of the reasons that Witcher show boosted Witcher 3 was because it got interest in Witcher 3 from people who weren't already part of the gaming sphere, or whatever you want to call that. Let me use a direct example. My sister. My sister is not actually a gamer. Oh, she plays video games. But you understand the distinction? She doesn't pay attention to the news. She doesn't follow the trends. She doesn't know what reviews are up on or down or this or what. She doesn't know what's coming out. She doesn't even know when E3 is, right? She's not part of that sphere of information. The Witcher show comes out. She loved it. She's been trying to get me to watch it for some time. And all of a sudden her interest in Witcher 3 skyrockets. I don't like the word casual. I've yet to be able to find a good way to use it that isn't insulting. So, no, I'm not going to use the word casual. Point being, this is, in my opinion, a smart move. I actually don't know much else about the anime. It's being done by Studio Trigger, I think. Hang on, I got the link right here. I'll just pull it up really quick. I'm going to put all the links in the VOD, obviously. Yeah, no, I'm right. Studio Trigger. I'm right. And they're making it, and who knows, it might actually be good. I probably won't watch it. But woo, they're also, while we're at it, just to kind of run through this, there's also going to be a The World Ends With You anime. We actually don't know much about that. World Ends With You anime right now has a countdown. In fact, here, let's see what the countdown's at right now. Because again, I got the link right here for the VOD. In 6 days, we're going to get information on what's going on with The World Ends With You. No idea how that's going to be. In fact, I'm not even 100% sure who's doing it, but whatever. And also, they're doing a show on Disco Elysium. And I feel like there's another one that was announced last week. There's a lot of shows coming out. Oh, no, they secured the rights to something. That was it. I don't remember what, though, because they're not actually saying they're making a show for it. They just secured the rights for it. So at some point, there might actually be a show for it. Either way, woo, as I have said several times this year and last, TV, that is to say shows, is definitely on a rise in terms of popularity and production, which we'll see. I still think it's a good thing, because even though we'll get plenty of dreck, the odds of getting good stuff has increased as well. Moving on. One last game I want to talk about before we move on, and that is Biomutant. Which is... So Biomutant was actually on my radar a long time ago, and then it fell off my radar, because the game just kind of languished in, La La Land. So actually getting any news at all about Biomutant was a little bit strange. It was actually some legit gameplay, as well as, your usual panning shots of gameplay stuff. But either way, it looks kind of decent, actually. It's kind of third-person action-y. It's got lots of different items and equipment. There's crafting, because of course there is. There's lots of different powers you can get depending on your mutation, which also looks cool. There's also Breath of the Wild-style climbing and a glider, which are both excellent ideas with regards to getting from point A to point B, as Breath of the Wild showed. It looks pretty cool. I might actually add that to my own personal list whenever we get there in 2038. So let's talk about... let's talk about Mixer. How many of you heard about what happened with Mixer? I suppose I'll just jump into it. Mixer shut down, basically. Let's just summarize. So let's actually rewind a step. Mixer was another streaming service, a competitor to Twitch that was being pushed by Microsoft. It has been shut down and its resources are being merged into Facebook streaming, which I'm just going to go ahead and say this as bluntly as I possibly can, is garbage. Now, Mixer was already not exactly a good platform. What's really funny is there's a lot of jokes, about Mixer. And a lot of, it's where you go to retire after you get a good deal and all that fun stuff. But as always, because this is my job and because I actually take my job very seriously, I decided to look into things. And what I saw at Mixer was one of two things. It was either, hey, let's try this thing. We have no idea what we're doing, but we're going to try it. Or, let's throw a little money at this one, and, once it fails, we'll just recoup on that one. In other words, one way or the other, Mixer was not something I wanted to get even remotely involved with. I actually did make a Mixer account, just in case. I always do. But, yeah. So Mixer shutting down, not even remotely surprising. What is surprising is the way they did it. See, what they did was they gave a whole lot of money to people with contracts, which is like 3 people, including Ninja. And when I say a whole lot of money, I mean in the 7-digit range. And everyone else got to suck it. It's, There's a webcomic called Penny Arcade. You've probably never heard of them. And Penny Arcade has been... I've watched them for a while, but they kind of dipped out of relevance and humor for a long time. And then they kind of came back. And they've just been really on point most of this year. I don't know what's up with that. But if you'll forgive me for just reciting their take on this word for word. So they're sitting there. It's sad about Mixer shutting down, but at least they respected the community and honored what they built together. The other guy says, well, and they cut checks to the partners, too. Obviously, that's like a rounding error for them. But still, it's recognition of their effort, and it ends things on a good note. And then there's an image of shattered glass, and then we cut to the real reality in which he said, so they burned Mixer to the ground and everyone inside live streamed it. I'm saying this is the mirror universe. It is a state of anxiety, Zorian, because being both a streamer and a YouTuber, or whichever one you happen to be if you're one or the other, is terrifying because either platform can just decide to destroy your job for what amounts to no reason. Just, oh, I've decided to kill your career. There's YouTube gaming. Yeah. That's a good idea, guys. I'm going to switch over to YouTube streaming. What's really sad about this, though, this is the McDonald's thing. I'm going to keep using that analogy because it's a really good one. Twitch is McDonald's here. Okay, that sounds insulting, but what I mean by that is they have such an overwhelming grip on the market. And in order for anything to be done about that, someone else is going to have to get involved and have something else going for them. And that's exactly what Mixer did not do. Mixer was just another platform. You know what they did with Mixer? They dumped a stupid amount of money on a small number of people, 1 digit of people total, and said, here, switch over to our thing. And because they were super popular, they naturally assumed that people would come with. Now, that's actually not a bad strategy as a step 1. The problem is, near as I can tell, this was step only in their game plan. Like I said, they either didn't know what they were doing, or they never planned for this to go anywhere. That was my take back when Mixer was really getting going. And here we are. They didn't do anything necessary to actually differentiate Mixer other than, hey, we dumped money on people. And those people are popular, so they're over here now, yay! And of course, now they're switching over to Facebook streaming, which someone in chat earlier said, I didn't even know Facebook had streaming. Yeah, pretty much. That's a good response to that. Of course, the catch is, at this point, what do you do in order to differentiate your service from Twitch? Because the other problem is Twitch has been going out of its way to introduce new things fairly regularly. It's still aggravating. There are still huge issues with Twitch. The fact that they won't stop messing with the interface is a huge problem, as I was complaining about literally today. Or how about the fact that Twitch doesn't actually need to inform you of anything before they do it? There have been people, this is not a joke, I'm going to be very neutral about terminology here. There have been people who have been temp banned from Twitch because a bunch of people decided to jump in their chat and report them. Now, I want to be clear about the way I said that. They weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't doing anything that violated any terms of service. People decided to bomb them with regards to, hey, this person sucks, and so they decided to temp ban them for that. So, Twitch is not exactly perfect. In fact, Twitch is far from perfect. But Twitch is also pushing a lot of its features fairly substantially. For those of you not aware, you remember when we tested out that, I forget what it's called, the Twitch Plays thing, where you can watch Amazon videos while streaming? Like, I could stream Star Trek right now, legally. That has been pushed. That has been expanded upon. And they're still expanding upon that right now. The latest change is now it's international. So, for example, any of my viewers who are not in the continental United States can now actually join in on that. So, you know, they're still pushing it, like I said. And again, that's kind of the problem, is Twitch is still trying to push the envelope in terms of quality, while at the same time also pushing the envelope in terms of how crap they are. So how exactly do you compete with Twitch? The only way, in my opinion, my economic opinion, to actually compete with Twitch is to play the long game and to accept the loss in the short term, which is a gamble. Basically, the idea is to operate at a loss while accepting the cost for keeping the streaming service up, and not be crap. It's important. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I mean that's the truth. Don't be crap. Have a functional interface. Have staff that are actually helpful and worth a damn. And then just sit there and let word of mouth slowly spread as things shift over. This is the kind of thing I would do if I was in the billion range, for example. Now, I'm not. But if you ever see Bellhammer streaming, you'll know what's up. Yeah. Anyways. Drink time. Like my new tumbler? It's actually metal instead of plastic, so that's nice. But it's also really well insulated, so this drink will be cold in like 4 hours. A little louder though, sorry about that. But yeah, the problem here, this whole mixer thing, is it's the exact same problem we've been having on YouTube. On a near weekly basis, I get someone who's like, "Hey, you know, you should go check out this other YouTube site, and you should stream / upload your stuff to them." And I'm just like, no. I'll look into it. I always do. It's my job. But I have not seen anything worth a damn. It's the exact same problem. That's why I'm bringing this up. Mixer was never a competitor for Twitch. Just like Blip was never a competitor for YouTube. Anyways. So now that we know that Amazon are our lords and masters, moving on. All praise to Amazon. Amazon, Amazon. Please don't kill me. Yeah, Pornhub... Ice Tray is, of course, saying that as a joke. It's not a joke. The only other viable competitor to YouTube is Pornhub. I really want you to think about that for a second. Because that's sad. Next point. Avengers, I think? Yeah, let's talk about Avengers. So Avengers had a thing. So any of you guys... they showed off what they call it, the War Table or something. There was a presentation for the new Avengers game last week. Now, before I say anything else, what do you guys think of it? I'm seeing some variety of opinions here, which is good. That's what I was curious about. My interest has gone down, having taken the time to watch the War Table, because I mean I'm trying to hold off. You know, I don't want to prejudge too much, but if I was making a buying decision, regardless of the show, because you guys are funding an Avengers run, my interest will have gone down, and this would be more of a not pick it up at launch kind of a thing. Because several things that were sort of for me. First of all, I do like Thor's look in the shirt and jeans. We're probably going to be using that. The gameplay looks average. The combat, I should be more clear. The combat looks average. It looks kind of floaty, and it doesn't really look like there's any connectivity to it, and I'm not really super impressed with how it's presented, with the exception of the co-op stuff. But they're really emphasizing the co-op team stuff, which is a red flag for me, because they're really emphasizing the online multiplayer aspect of it, which is another red flag for me. They've got a map with mission select, and they mention how they've got all these different stories, each character's story, and I'm like, so is there not a main plot? There has to be a main plot, because they're going after MODOK, right? But at the same time, that's not really how it's being presented. Of course, there are skills, and gear, and cosmetics, and levels, and 2 currencies, from what I saw from the interface. That's a huge red flag, by the way. Anytime you see a game that has multiple currencies like that, that probably means 1 currency you can get in the game, and 1 currency that costs real money or is rarely available in the game. That's an extremely common tactic. Here's 7 million gold! Oh, you want that new piece of gear? That's going to cost 15 titanium. So that'll be, $1.50 if you want to buy that. Or you could get 1 titanium if you do your weekly quest. Sound familiar? Lots of games do that. Not just Mobage. So, Then I decided to really comb over the view, because I actually watched the War Table. I had yesterday off, so I could watch all these actual things. And, the gameplay looks very Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It definitely seems more leaning that way than, say, towards the recent Spider-Man game, Spider-Man PS4, which I'm not super happy about. But as I was watching it, you know what I was reminded of most of all? The Division. Now, I don't know how many other games do this, because I'm not that familiar with them, but I use Division because that's the one I'm most familiar with. Now, I'll go on record as saying I enjoyed The Division after a few years of patches. But I did. It was fun playing through with a friend. But the problem is, that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a series of semi-sequential missions, which you go out into the map to do, and then you go through an area, and then you enter the boss arena. That's where you can't respawn. You can't respawn in that area, and then you have to find that. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Not super happy about that. They also showcased literally picking up loot chests, which I say that specifically that way because they look a lot like loot boxes, but I wasn't able to confirm that 100%. It might just be gear, which again would be kind of the Division style. You know, there's a big chest at the end of the dungeon kind of a thing, right? So, okay. Pseudo MMO kind of a leaning thing, which can be good. Also, there's going to be faction reputation, which unlocks different vendors for buying stuff, and of course new challenges, which you can do in order to get more currency, in order to buy stuff. Everything that I saw screams live services game. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. Really gritting my teeth on that one, because it's not. I still think World of Warcraft is a good game, and that is a live services game. I think Final Fantasy XIV is a good game, and I think Star Trek Online is a good game. Those are all live service games. But the problem is, then there's the other 700,000 games that are live service games that I don't think are good. Slight exaggeration. Ghost Recon Wildlands. That is another good example of Plutonia. I was playing that last night with my friends. I still have fun with that game. One of my friends picked it up for the first time, and so he's been going through the missions of the campaign, and so we hopped in to play with him. It's been fun. Especially the part where they decided to run me over as I was trying to... Okay, actually, do you mind if I share this story really quick? And on a positive note here. So, in Ghost Recon Wildlands, some of you will understand this. You get a drone. It's one of your main kicks, and you can fly it around, and you can equip it with certain things. One of those is an EMP blast, which disables tech, including cars for some reason, in an area, right? So, we get in a truck, and we're about to head off to another objective, and Gary, who's driving, says, "Oh, hang on, Lore, can you drive?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So he hops out. I hop out. We Chinese shuffle it, and I get into the driver's seat. And I'm getting ready to drive, and I'm figuring out where we're going. And as I'm getting ready to go off, I see the drone pop up for like a millisecond and then explode into an EMP on our car, our truck that we're driving. So I'm sitting here like... And in Discord, because we're in voice chat, I just hear Gary laughing insanely for like a solid 40 seconds. So then I'm like, okay, sure. I'll figure out what happened in a minute. I hop out and I look around. The two cars nearest us are also EMP'd, so I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. So I run back, grab another car, which is a crap car, but whatever, it's a vehicle, and start driving up to pick them up, and then Pax decides to detonate his EMP on me as I'm driving past. So it just kind of slowly rolls to a stop. What had happened was Gary was going to put in the... Because one of the things that's fun to do is while someone else is driving, you pop your drone, and then you can have like a chase cam thing going on, which looks cool and is fun and blah, blah, blah. And of course, it helps you identify targets as soon as you approach an area, right? So Gary popped the drone, but Ghost Recon's Wildlands, while I recommend it and is a fun game, is very buggy. So what happened was the drone on his end didn't spawn, and he's confused. He's like, what the heck? So he left-clicked. Now, for those of you not aware, left-click is what detonates the drone. But of course, it really was... I'm sorry, I'm probably underselling this, because it's basically, hey, can you drive? Psst. No, Gary, I cannot drive. Because you nuked my car! Oh, we've hit so many bugs, Hazardous. One time he rezzed me on an outcropping, and his stand-up animation never loaded, so he was scooting around on the ground, kneeling for the next entire firefight. All the other animations playing, he was just scooting with his legs not moving, like he was on roller skates or something. It's a good game. I recommend it with friends. I gotta add that with friends thing. I think Just Cause 2, but funner. one time, there was, there was this. You know what? No, I could just go on for a while. Not get into Recon Wildlands stories. Let's move on. So Avengers probably sucks. Moving on. All right, so let's talk about Cyberpunk. I am not excited. I am super not excited. Moving on. So Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk released a bunch of stuff last week. I don't know what to think about Cyberpunk at this point. So, the stuff I watched was the gaming demo that was released to press that they could look at, as well as something else. God, I don't even remember. It was this other thing. I'm not sure. So one of the big things we did see is that... Sorry, I'm struggling to put my thoughts together here. One of the big things we did see was that the origin you pick changes your setup, your starting point. Let me go ahead and say that I do like that at the beginning. I do enjoy the idea of, hey, we've started the game, and we're not always on a frickin' wagon who is always a prisoner by circumstance being dragged into Skyrim, right? I do like that idea. So the fact that you can start... The Nomad looks like the most interesting one so far, consequently. But either way, I do like that idea. We'll see what they actually do with it long term. I've noticed that our character, at least in all of the gameplay stuff I saw, seems to be a complete asshole. I sure hope I can play not an asshole, as would be my preference. We'll see. The branching mission structure is something they showcased a little bit too, and they also showed off a little bit of tech demo-y stuff. So one of the things they showed was this tech in-universe where you can pull information from someone's implant. It was a specific type of implant, and this implant allows you to scan information around them to basically then move the camera out into third person and watch a scene, right, and to figure out what happened in the scene. I have a feeling that's going to be used for, like, deduce what happened kind of missions. That's what they used it for the little, for the default thing, for the setup thing. I'm curious what they're going to do with that. It's a cool idea, and it certainly feels like an evolution of the Witcher 3 thing, for lack of a better way to put it. The fact that you can, okay, let's see, there's this, and then I'm holding down the shift, and there's some red stuff here I'm going to interact with, and it shows me... It seems like an evolution of that particular mechanic in terms of application. So that was cool. They showed off... our character is voiced. Allow me to be one of the weirdos who says that I actually like that. I would rather be voiced, but at the same time, the dialogue option you pick is not the dialogue you say. We'll see if Tor Effect hits... But that does irritate me a little bit that they don't actually write out the actual dialogue that will then be voiced by the character. Driving looks passable. Like, I'm not super impressed. I'm probably biased because I've played a lot of driving games in my life, including GTA 5 recently. But the driving just looks okay. Aiming and shooting looks fairly bog standard. I don't have anything to say about that. Running through the rest of the scene on my head. Give me a second here. There were a few cool moments. Okay, so I did have something positive to say about it. Oh yes, Jesse Cox is in the game, and another YouTuber, I forget who, please forgive me. So the other positive thing I had to say about is the game, and I know I'm going to get some hackles for this, does actually feel like a Cyberpunk game. Like, a lot of the stuff there is very Cyberpunk-y. The aforementioned implant that I just mentioned. Bad, Catabo. Or, yeah, exactly, Shadow Machine. Or I don't know. The twins that were one body, or rather one mind stretched across two bodies, you know, and they use implants to stay connected to each other thing. I'm trying to remember. I feel like there's other examples, and I just can't think of any off the top of my head, so please forgive me. But yeah, I feel like they're getting the vibe and the atmosphere, if nothing else, pretty accurate. That, of all things, doesn't surprise me, if I'm being honest, because, I mean, they managed to make the feel of a Witcher 3 game. I'm not that surprised that they're going to make the feel of a Cyberpunk game. What really makes me curious, though, is exactly how the core gameplay is going to be. Because from what I've seen, and again, this is mostly just what they were showing, the core gameplay looks average. It looks like it's going to shine on its story axis. And if you've seen my Witcher 3 review, that's not something that surprises me. The medic's overcharging you. Yeah, one of the things they showed was you getting arrested by some cops, who brutalize you, of course, and are then ordered to execute you rather than dealing with the problems of actually, arresting you and going through the paperwork. What can I say? Apropos. Yeah, I liked that too, Rowan. There's a lot of little details that looks like I'm going to enjoy. I'm probably going to enjoy the story of Cyberpunk. Let's just be real. I am probably going to enjoy this story of Cyberpunk. And I will say that is better than I thought of it before last week. I know that I'm actually extremely unusual in saying this, but I'm one of those people who wasn't actually super hyped for Cyberpunk. For many reasons, which I've mentioned several times. After having slogged through... Slogged? That's the wrong word. After having gone through all the stuff that they released last week, I at least think the story's going to be good. So, positive there. What are the backgrounds? Oh, shoot. Hang on. Let's see if I can... I know one of them's Corpo. Of course, I didn't write any notes down. Why would I do that? Nomad, yep. Smuggle ourselves in, we fight some guys, yep. Jackie's there. That's actually an interesting question, Nerdpicks. Street Kid, that was the other one, Street Kid. I don't know if there's going to be more. The information for Cyberpunk is absolutely all over the place, which is part of the reason why my own notes on this are extremely all over the place. This is, as weird as this may sound, this is one of the reasons I miss E3, because it was there. It's one cohesive thing. Shakong, right? But that's a tough question. Nerdpix, says, what would you rather have? Good story or good gameplay? I mean, ideally, obviously, both. I don't... did I play the tabletop RPG? Of course I have, Zach Taft. I can tell you stories. I usually play a talker, by the way. That's my skill. I'm the person who talks in, away, and around the other people. And my friends would play. I have one person who was the hacker and one person who was the solo. But anyways, I just mentioned that the game I'm most excited for this year is Curse of the Moon 2. Now, Curse of the Moon 2 will basically have no story, but will probably have really good gameplay. And I still think positively of Curse of the Moon 1, and would in fact love to replay Curse of the Moon 1. So, as much as I will probably answer story is probably more important to have good, at the same time, I'm too much of a gameplay guy at my core to really say that without adding a massive asterisk to it. There are games that I will tolerate the gameplay for the story, but there's always going to be that, and those games are never going to be that high on the list for me, because I am tolerating the game. Whereas there are other games that I absolutely love to play and replay because of their gameplay. Make sense? There's a reason I love Mega Man, I could play Mega Man right now, there's my Switch, and have fun with it right now. So, I'm hoping so too, Dakota. We'll see. Exactly, Hazardous. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Am I right? Yeah, exactly, Shikor. Anyways. We'll see. We'll see when it comes to Cyberpunk. I've already mentioned that it being delayed is probably a bad thing because it probably means more crunch and a moved goalpost, so that sucks. But whatever. It also means their multiplayer DLC has been pushed back. Not that I care all that much about that. But whatever. Where's my notes? Is that everything for today? Go down the list. I talked about that. Looks like that is it. Oh, yeah. Real quick thing at the end here before I switch over to the weekly positivity streams. Someone was asking where we're at with the theater, so I am still missing lines from Galtori, who is busy and having issues. Hat, although he's getting very close to finishing. He only has one chapter left. Ryo Kami, haven't heard from her. Not sure what's up with that. Random, haven't heard from him. Not sure what's up with that. Reximus, he's still working on that. And Ruth, and I know she's been having issues, but at least I'm in contact with her. Thank you very much, Uchiha Daisuke. Very much obliged and appreciate the sub as always. I will put that towards satisfactory. Yep, nope, we're done. So I'm going to go jump off the local recording.